Okay, this is going to be a real quick video. I'm going to basically take you on a quick walkthrough of my bar that I just built in our pole barn. I finished this bar probably a month ago. It took me, I don't know, roughly 2 months to build, working on the weekends and in evenings. Spent a lot of time planning, trying to get that really rustic Western look, which is what I was going for. So I really wanted to do everything myself on this bar, so pretty much everything you see here was built by me, including even the bar top. So I'm not an expert woodworker by any means, and I learned a lot as I went here. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of my pole barn bar. So the first thing that you're going to notice are the red oak beams. Those are legit oak beams from a 1870s, 1880s pole barn that was torn down last summer, and this would have been, I think, out of Northwest Ohio. So these beams all came from the same barn. It was built by this gentleman's family, his ancestors, of course, many generations back. So a little sentimental value to them, but at the same time, they had a lot of extra timber they were trying to get rid of, and these beams were in excellent condition. Now, they were pretty weathered on the outside, but they were extremely solid and still very heavy and sturdy with almost no rot whatsoever. So they were a heck of a find, and I got them for a really good price, just considering what some of these beams are going for these days. So like I said, they're all original to this barn, including even these beams here, these support beams. So if you look up here at the top, what I had to do, that is the original, I think they call it a mortise and tenon joint, but that's the original joint. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one exactly the same length as what I needed, so I had to kind of improvise a little bit. So I bought myself some woodworking chisels, and I basically made my own joint. So I literally copied this joint right over here, which is original to the beam, and I made my own joint. You can see up there. No, it's not perfect, but you can't really tell the difference. Probably you expert woodworkers that see this video might know, but it turned out well, and I was happy with the results. So yeah, these beams turned out really great. Did a lot of light sanding. I treated them for, you know, any type of insects. I found lots of different ways to do that online. And then basically I finished them using tung oil. So even though it doesn't smell the greatest, it really brings out the original colors of the wood. So just kind of moving on to these bar stools. Nothing special about them. They look rustic, you know, nothing really antique looking, but they go with the look we have here for the barn. I actually picked those up at Menards when they were on sale, so those were kind of a good find. I think I ended up getting those for, I don't know, 25 bucks a piece. So those turned out really nice. The bar top, I just used good old standard pine, fir, whatever the mix is that you buy at any Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. So I did some light hand planing on them, nothing special, just to kind of smooth the tops out. And you know, I basically glued them together, and I've got a like a pocket jig tool. So on the bottom side, they're all fastened together. So it really is a nice solid piece. I made all the joint cuts myself. I measured about 50 times. I know the old saying is measure twice and cut once, but I didn't want to really screw it up. So I really made sure I measured and did it right the first time. So it turned out real nice. It's nothing special. I know a lot of people use oak, but considering this is in the barn and it's more utility than anything, I wasn't going to go and spend a small fortune on oak. So basically all I did with this top is I've got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood on the bottom, and basically these 2x6s, or not 2x6s, 1x6s are resting on top. And then you can see my little drip tray back here. That turned out nice as well. So nothing special about the top. I did that all the way around. I didn't do any type of elaborate epoxy finish. It's basically just, let me go over here and check real quick. I think it's just polyacrylic. Yep, it's I use polyacrylic. And it probably has 5 or 6 coats. I did sanding between each one, and then the 4th and 5th coating I didn't do any sanding on, so nothing special there. So this wall and the ceiling, kind of an interesting story here. My quest to find good oak, you know, barn beams, flooring, that sort of thing. People wanted a small fortune for this antique barnwood. And to be honest, putting a bar out in my barn, I really didn't want to spend a fortune. So I came up with an alternative solution. I came across some very inexpensive cedar 1x6s. And to be honest with you, I spent probably a week going through different, you know, vinegar, steel wool staining combinations. I know it's a popular thing to do to get that antique look, but I came up with a solution that I really loved, and it gave it a nice gray, weathered, uneven finish. And to me, it looks just like you'd probably see on a lot of barns on the inside and the outside. So it really got the effect that I wanted, and you can see it on the ceiling as well. So that was a real easy way to get the look that I wanted. So I was just really happy with the way that turned out. So if you come over here on the back, this is just basically slate stack stone. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. There was a couple that just completed a bar in their basement, and they had quite a bit left over. I got it for a heck of a good price. So that's where that came from, and I did all that myself. That was actually very, very easy to install. That probably took me at most 2 hours to install this entire thing, and that's doing it with the adhesive the correct way. No special skills. I do have a tile saw, which made it a lot easier, but for the most part, the hardest parts were cutting out the openings for the electrical outlets, which weren't really terribly challenging if you've got a little bit of a mechanical skill. If you look at the paneling right here, this was basically brand new paneling. I just used the, there's several methods online to get this rustic antique effect. So it started out, and you can see over there in front of the tractor and the mower, you can see the brand new piece. But basically that's how it started, and I ended up using, I tried a couple different methods. I used toilet bowl cleaner, which wasn't quite as effective. Ultimately, I used muriatic acid, and I think I picked that up from Menards or Lowe's. I'm not even sure which one at this point. Put it in a spray bottle, sprayed it on, stayed out of the wind, of course, because I think the chemical's pretty harmful if you breathe it in. So basically I did that, and then after I let it sit for 20-25 minutes, I sprayed it with hydrogen peroxide and then rinsed it all off when I was done, and it gives it this nice weathered effect. So I was real happy with the way the paneling turned out. And a couple other things that I did, I had lots of ideas that I got from online in terms of how I was gonna lay this whole thing out. I did like the idea, even though these beams are still strong and structural, I decided it was probably the safest thing to do, which was to build a frame behind the bar and attach it to the actual studs on the wall. So I ended up putting a header on the back side of the bar that this entire structure attaches to. And you can't really see it because I've got it hidden well, but everything's attached by brackets up in the back side. I've got things painted up, so you can kind of see it right there. I don't have it covered up that well, but you can see there's a great big 2x12 faceplate on the back that everything attaches to. And you can see the front here. I've got a beam supporting on the back side. So basically, these nice beams are attached to 4x4 posts, which are, you can't see it down here, but they're anchored into the floor. So this is not going anywhere. It's probably, it probably made the building a little bit stronger itself, believe it or not. So it definitely has a nice frame behind it. So for the bar rail on the bottom, I just went to any combination of the places I mentioned before, but you can buy these pipe fittings pretty much anywhere. So I made my bar rails out of the pipe fittings. It turned out really nice. Very simple project to do, simple measurements. Go out and pick up the pipe, get whatever you want. And I think I used, those are 3/4, yeah, those look like 3/4 inch. I take that back. Those are 1 inch. My shelving, my pipe shelving, is 3/4 inch. So I just made those shelves too, and I attached them to that same plate that runs along the back. Everything's tied together, mounted to the bottom of the bar here. So I'm sure you're interested in what I have going on here, this little backdrop. Even though I made the bar, you know, kind of rustic, maybe a little Western style, which is kind of what I was going for. We're not quite done decorating, but you know, you get the idea. I decided to make something a little more modern with the backdrop. So I got this idea from, I mean, there's lots of different things that you find on the internet, on Pinterest and things like that, but I kind of came up with something that I really like. So basically that is just another frame into the wall, and I painted the back of the OSB like a real light gray color. Then what I did is I took LED strip lights, put them all the way around the outside edge of the inside, and then I covered it with this piece of plexiglass. It's just a 4x8 piece of clear plexiglass I picked up at Menards, and I took a just kind of a sanding disc. I think I used 320 grit because it doesn't really show the lines, and it just gives it that really nice frosted appearance. You can buy the frosted plexiglass, but it's 3 or 4 times more expensive than the clear, and this probably took me 20 minutes to get the frosted appearance. With the sanding wheel, it was pretty easy to do. So like I said, I use an orbital sander, and I think it was a 320 grit sanding disc that I used, and it turned out really nice. So that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of everything here. We've got it all wired. We actually, it's on its own 20 amp breaker, the entire bar. So if we ever want to come out here and plug crock pots in, or we want to plug multiple things into these outlets, it'll never be overloaded. So that's one nice thing about it. I did put a little mini fridge in here, and I've got I've just got some beer, some Sprite, Coke, other things, some mixing stuff in here. It's got a nice little freezer. I've got my cubes in there for old fashions, and of course I do like bourbon and whiskey, so I've got lots of different options and styles for that. But I do have another spot right here, and so the idea for this spot right here is going to be a kegerator, and then I'll probably put a tap and a serving point right here. So a lot of people ask why build a bar in your barn? Why would you do that? Well, I had to convince my wife a little bit of that same dilemma, because we just built this really nice new house. We've got a great big full basement, beautiful kitchen. But I think everybody knows that's watching this video that has a pole barn or their own man cave. You know, it's a good place when you have the guys over, you have your friends over, you can come out and just hang out. You can enjoy some beers together, some drinks together, play cards, have a good time. And you know, it just gets you away from the house for a little bit, because sometimes we all need a break, especially in 2020. It's been a hell of a year. So I thought, what not a perfect year to build a bar out in my barn that we can all enjoy. So, you know, since this has been up, we've had friends over, we've had family over. You know, we've had little get-togethers here and there, nothing major. And we've had a great time out here. It keeps you, you know, away from the house, but yet we're still 80, 90 feet from the house. So we have everything we need out here to, you know, have a good time and keep it out here. I don't really mind if things get a little messy out here, because it's easy to clean up. So again, just wanted to share that with everybody. If you have any questions, just go ahead and throw them in the comment field. Be happy to answer it. I know the first question someone's probably going to ask are what are the dimensions, and the bar itself is roughly 12 feet wide by probably, I don't know, I'd have to look at I have everything written down. I would say probably 8.5 feet total from where the stone or the backdrop is to the front of the bar counter. Yeah, probably 8.5 feet, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But anyways, hope you enjoy the video. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.